You've got your business strategy set with your plans for marketing, sales, and kindness. That might sound a little out of place until you hear that a happy workplace is a profitable workplace. A special panel of experts weigh in. Then later, we'll talk about how to market this new strategy. Here's a hint: user experience is all the buzz. Expert Connections starts now. We talk a lot about business strategy, but it's safe to say we've never talked about just being kind as a strategy. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. How often do you wish that there was just a little bit more kindness in the world? Turns out it's actually pretty profitable too. We put together a panel of experts for a special segment today. Joining us is John Mashney, an attorney at Foster Swift, Michelle Hutchison, a licensed therapist and founder of the Meta Center, and Sherry Pash of Strategic Solutions for Growth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Julie. We're all really excited to be with you on this topic today.
I'm excited for this topic too. This is a little outside of our normal purview, kindness as a business strategy. You don't often hear that, but hang with us because we're talking about empathy toward employees or clients, and this is a hot topic. Michelle, let's set the scene. Why does kindness matter, especially right now?
Julie, that's such an important question because we're talking about creating cultures within the work environment, whether it's the culture as a whole or within our leadership and how we lead and guide our employees. When we really dig into a culture of kindness and servant leadership, we understand that it brings maximum output from our employees because of the impact on the brain, the human brain.
We'd like to think that all leaders really have that empathy and really care about their employees. But I also bet that you just, hit the bell on that word there of that output and that production. And I think that that's really important too. A happy workplace is also a profitable one. But if we're going to talk kindness, Michelle, we should also talk about burnout. What is happening right now within our workforce? Burnout has become just such a big word.
Yes, burnout is coming because of the pandemic, post-pandemic, and we're actually still in the middle of it, right? So our brains are releasing cortisol, our stress hormone, that's bringing more and more tension to the workplace environment. And people are then experiencing stress at home. They're also experiencing it within the workplace. And we also know the structural makeup of our leadership brains. This can sound controversial, but it's true. When we look for that more decisive leadership brain, we're also losing some empathetic regions of the brain area if there's not good balance there. And all of that impacts our employees and the culture of our work environments. And right now in society, we're seeing this clash of our employees saying money doesn't keep us any longer because we can't handle the load of stress. And then we're also seeing new employees coming into the field who don't have the development or the cognitive skill set to manage the capacity for which we're asking them to manage. And so it's really important that we start to look at the culture of our workplace so that we can create an environment that people want to be, and we can sustain, we can maintain employees, we can build healthy citizens, and we can have successful work environments.
Michelle, one quick question before we move on here. You really just hit on this, talking about the mental health of our employees. Do businesses have a responsibility right now to take care of their employees and their mental health?
We do, yes. We have a huge responsibility because if we want to be sustainable as a business and as a workforce, we've got to start to build up the capacity of our employees to handle life situations, to handle relationships within the work environment, and to understand that many are coming into the work environment under high levels of stress, which is impacting brain development. And so again, it's our responsibility now to grow up and support people and to look at the culture of our environment. creating cultures of forgiveness, creating cultures of kindness and relationship, creating culture of similarity and generosity, and creating cultures that bring psychological safety.
Culture here, really the important part of this. Creating a system that's sustainable. And John, we're not just talking about the easy wins either, like the pizza parties on Fridays or the team building activities. Those are all great. But how do we take on the hard tasks, like terminating a contract with another company or terminating an employee? How do we take on these hard tasks and still be kind?
Well, I think that's the key question, right? It's easy for someone to think, oh, it's kindness is a great idea and concept, but it doesn't really work in the real world, right? You have to do a lot of hard things. And my experience before I went to law school, I ran a media department, and I remember having to hire people, but also fire people, and it was very, very challenging emotionally to do that. And I got some great advice from a mentor of mine, and he said, you treat people like people, right? Sometimes you have to have a hard conversation, but that doesn't mean that you treat them like an object and then they're gone. You treat someone like a person. You think about, this is a regular person just like me, and we have to do something that may be difficult, but we don't have to treat them like someone who is not, valuable, right? And it's being candid, right? Being kind, even when you have to confront some reality that maybe neither of you like very much. It doesn't have to be a difficult, or it doesn't have to be painful, and you certainly don't have to treat people like anything less than what a person should deserve.
Sherry, kindness is the cornerstone to sales. Empathy. Why does this matter?
Julie, our customers and our clients and members, they have many choices on who they want to work with, right? So your care, your empathy, and your kindness can often set you apart from your competition if you look at just the business side of this. But again, empathy and kindness are really key during objections and challenges. When you're in the sales process, one of the things we've trained on for years, the first step when you have an objection or a challenge is showing empathy. That's so critical. And isn't it more fun to work with kindness and care throughout the year with your clients and customers? And it really comes back to the foundation, moving from sales transactions into relational sales. Relational sales is done through caring, through kindness, and through empathy. And if you want a strong, successful sales program, put empathy and kindness at the start.
Absolutely. Sherry, we've got a kind of running joke, but it's true at our company that we don't work with jerks. And sometimes we use some other choice words there, but the reality is I'm not going to let my team, be subject to, unnecessary, meanness, if we're talking about kindness. And I think that that's really important. A lot of people would rather be happy with who they're working with, whether it's externally, like you're talking about in sales, or as John was talking about internally with our own teams. Now, John, it may not quite qualify as legal guidance, but what's one way you try to have empathy personally as you're dealing in your professional life?
Well, I think it's managing all aspects of a relationship, right? Certainly at the beginning of a relationship, everything is usually rosy. Otherwise, you're not going to enter into a relationship, right? You're excited about it. But even in the middle, I oftentimes say, no relationship really starts until somebody makes a mistake. And then what happens? How do you react? Are you done immediately? Do you just leave? In most cases, I think you're going to have never really going to have a good relationship, period, if a single mistake causes you to be unkind or to sever, what could be a very good relationship going down the line. And even at the end of a relationship, sometimes things just don't work out. It doesn't mean that everybody has to leave angry. You can still treat people like people, as my old mentor used to say, and still be kind and maybe even be generous at the end of a relationship, rather than trying to take territory and just treat it as kind of some selfish game to see how much you can get up until the very end.
Yeah, John, what you're talking about is the relational versus transactional. And sometimes it can be so easy for us to get caught up in the transactions that we're doing instead of building those relationships. Now, I know when we were all talking before the show, the word genuine kept coming up from each one of you. Does it make a difference, Sherry, when we genuinely care versus trying to express that we care, even if the feelings aren't quite there? Let's elaborate on that word genuine, Sherry.
Yeah, it's got to be authentic, genuine, caring, correct? People know the difference. They really do. So we've got to look at if if what we're looking to do is create relationship with our clients, we have to care. And, if you find that you may not generally care about your clients, it might mean you have the wrong clients, or you may be in the wrong field. And I don't want to sound harsh, Julie, but in sales, you have to be passionate about your product or service and equally passionate about your clients and bringing them solutions. If you really don't have that genuine caring and concern for your clients and for your coworkers and the whole team you're with, then it is time to look at that. But I think all of us have that. It's how do we do it? And we have to use our contact management systems. People call them CRMs. We have to take relationship notes on our clients and customers on the things we genuinely care about. So we're not treating them like a new client each time we talk to them, or anyone else in your organization that might pick the phone up and talk to a client or customer needs to know those same relationship points. And that's how we genuinely care about the people we do business with.
Absolutely. How great does it feel when you get that handwritten card in the mail because someone remembered that it's your birthday, or they remembered something about something personal happening in your life? I had a contact once who would send me, newspaper clippings of things that he thought I would be interested in. And it's just those special touches. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to take a lot of time or money, but just to show that you are authentic and caring and in keeping track of that relationship. Michelle, one final question. And this is a tough one, but we've got a minute here left. What are some of the first steps that business leaders can take to really start to work kindness into their culture in the office?
Yes, Julie, it's just really important that we start to see our employees, from multiple perspectives, from body, soul, and spirit, because we're made up of multiple parts. And when we understand the brain, when we understand brain chemicals, when we understand the temperament of our employees, and then we start to approach our work culture from multiple perspectives, we develop the whole employee. So remembering that we build a culture within our agencies and business that releases dopamine, that releases serotonin, that releases oxytocin, that builds connection and similarity and ritual and focus, and that looks at the ultimate well-being of our employees, not just in speak, but in action, then we get whole, healthy employees, productive output, and we're impacting our community.
And John, you actually wrote a blog on that very topic, talking about these chemicals being released in the brain. One final question for you. How do you see this in action in the workplace?
Well, I think the way I see it is there's a biological basis for how people feel. And when you're generous as a leader and you serve people, you can make them physically, biologically change in a way that makes them happier.
Absolutely. John, Michelle, Sherry, thank you so much for joining us today. This was really insightful. And thank you for stepping outside the box to talk about kindness. I know it's not a typical part of the strategy, but the more we talked about it, the more we knew we just had to do this on the show today. So thank you so much for joining us. To hear more from our experts, head to our website, expertconnections.tv, and click Legal and Sales Connections. You can also find us on YouTube. Check us out and be sure to subscribe. How do you reflect all of this, any of this, in your marketing? Does kindness matter in your messaging when you're marketing your business? Let's take it to the experts. In today's Marketing Connections, we're talking about creating the best customer experience. Joining us, Paul Schmidt from Uno Deuce Multimedia, Jesse Flores of Super Web Pros, and Seth Getz of Symposia Labs. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us, Julie.
Businesses put in a lot of time, effort, and money into getting prospects from point A to point B. Guys, we know this personally. We call this customer journey the customer experience or user experience. So here's today's question. Does kindness matter in user experience? Jesse, you say empathy is the cornerstone of good marketing. Why?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right. It is something that I say pretty often. When you look at the best marketers and really even the best businesses, it really is fundamentally about solving problems for customers that they care about, right? And I'll give you kind of a quick example of something like this. So think about how a typical business might market itself or might message itself, right? So let's say I have a roofing company, and what you might see typically on a website is something like, we're the best roofers. We've been in business for 45 years, multi-generation, yada, yada, yada. The reality is that doesn't really matter. People come to your company because they want you to fix the hole in the roof, right? Or because there's some problem that needs to get fixed. So the better marketers would actually take this into account, empathize with where the customer is, and they would shift both their messaging and their offers to reflect the problems that they solve on behalf of their customers. And here's what ends up happening. It becomes clear to customers that you as the business are trying to solve problems that I care about. And so I reach out to you to solve the problem. And what does that mean? That means that more people are reaching out for you to solve the problem. You solve more problems. And what happens is you end up making more money, more profit, et cetera. It really is the cornerstone. And this is one of the things that we see a lot of businesses miss, is they focus on what I can do instead of who I can serve. And I think flipping that paradigm is the first step to being really successful in this industry.
Yeah, really about switching those services around and looking at it from that different viewpoint. Paul, you've mentioned several times in previous episodes that your number one rule is really getting to know your audience. What do you mean by this?
Well, basically it is, you have to know where you're catering your message. Otherwise, you're going to be screaming into the ether, and you're going to, when somebody asks you, oh, who do you serve? And you say everyone, which is just not the truth. You have to craft your message in a certain way to reach that audience. And not only do you have to craft the message, you have to use the platforms that are appropriate for that message to go out. Use the appropriate platforms for those messages to go out, because those platforms use that message in different ways because they reach different audiences, and you're trying to target that. And because the old, I always talk about the sniper versus the shotgun approach. You really want to target, you really want to get down to the nitty gritty with who your audience is and where they're going to be, but also understanding that platform and being able to use it appropriately. For example, I had a client that he wanted his organization to have video, just straight up video. I know I'm a video guy, so they talked to me, and he flat out told me, he goes, it's not about getting more clients. They have clients, but it's getting people to understand what the services are that they need funding for, that they may need donations for this nonprofit to service those clients. So understanding where to pinpoint that message is very, very important, and knowing what platform to use to make sure that message goes directly to those folks. That's about knowing where your audience is and who your audience is and where they are.
And in the case of that client, his audience obviously being the donors, and using video to guide the donors through that user experience. What a great example. Seth, how do companies make it or break it when it comes to user experience?
Well, user experience is a long process. It's not just one short segment of something. It is the entire user experience journey there. And as Jess said, you just got to start out. Well, Paul said about understanding the client, but then also Jess said you got to shift your perspective on how you do it from being what do I want to what does the customer want. Once you do that, you've got to take that mindset, not just through your opening message in marketing, but through your entire process, through the entire customer experience, through the user experience of how they first see your company, how they look at every different place of your company, how they order from you, how they interact with you, their end result, their customers. It's looking at the entire thing. It's like, what is it that my customer needs to see from me to feel that empathy, to feel that kindness from me, to do that? I've seen it before where, and you guys have seen the same thing. You go in there and you've got a great user experience until you get a little farther down the road, and it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't match up. And you run into what I call the sales prevention department. They've done all this work on getting you in there to the point, and then you get to order, and it's like, it's so hard to order from you. I don't know why it's so hard to order from you. Just make it easier, please. And no, they make it very difficult, and it's like, it just ruins the experience of the whole thing. So looking at this thing from the outside and saying, what is the entire experience? Because you can be awesome at your initial message and totally blow at the end.
Absolutely. That consistency is key. Seth, Jesse, Paul, thank you so much for sharing your insights today. To hear more from our marketing experts, head to our website, expertconnections.tv, and click Marketing Connections. You can also now find us on YouTube. Check us out and make sure to subscribe. For our dose of heart and soul this month, we're focusing on family, sharing stories of women in leadership. Here's Sylvia Williams with our Heart and Soul Connections.
Today, I'm here with Gina Johnson, who has an inspiring leadership story. Gina, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. You attended Wellesley College, Gina, which is an Ivy League all-girls school in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Now, many great women are graduates of Wellesley, including some of the women are Hillary Clinton, Madeleine Albright, Diane Sawyer, and you. What impact did attending Wellesley have on you, and how has it shaped you into the woman you are today?
Well, first of all, it was a real serious atmosphere, and it was a place where women wanted to learn, they wanted to study. They weren't typically like a typical college atmosphere. Everyone wants to have fun, but there were a lot less drugs, alcohol that are distracting from learning what you need to learn in a college atmosphere. So I wanted a really rigorous academic atmosphere.
And with that said, Gina, what did you major in at Wellesley?
I majored in international studies with a focus on the Soviet Union and minored in economics. And my concern really was I was fully aware of how persecuted Jews and Christians were in the Iron Curtain countries and Soviet Union especially. I loved the Russian literature, passionate, probably because they've been under so much persecution, been so much in the fire that their passion comes through their art, their music, their literature. Mm-hmm. So
wow, that's great.
And I studied it with an intention of helping the Iron Curtain be destroyed.
Yeah, she wanted to help abolish it, but by the time you graduated, it had been abolished.
That's right. It was abolished in 88, and I graduated in 89 and said, wow, they did a great job, and looked for direction.
And you've also run for state representative in the 71st district, and you're a director of something called MISHOP. What is MISHOP?
MISHOP is Michigan Capital House of Prayer. Obviously, I did not abandon my Christian roots. I just got stronger in them. I learned to evaluate real justice, real truth, real facts, and therefore, I at the core of who I am, I believe that it is very important to have a prayer life, to know who you are with the Almighty, with the Creator, the Savior, Jesus Christ, and to stand strong in that. If we don't have that core strength, when the waves start coming and the challenges arrive, you can't stand. So Michigan Capital House of Prayer is a place where Christians come together, and it doesn't matter where you come from politically. If you can agree that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, you get to pray together and have your own reserved spots or group with others. Mm-hmm. But the point is 1 Timothy 2, pray for everyone in authority over you. And it's a governmental house of prayer. It's Excellent. Right next to the capital of Michigan.
Excellent. So Gina, as we come to the end of this program, what are the two things you'd suggest to educated women who are seeking a career in raising a family? Because I do know that you raised your daughter, who is soon to get married. Congratulations. But what are two things you suggest to educated women who are seeking a career in today's society?
I would suggest that you figure out who you are in God first, and seek older women who are wise, who are stable, who are happy, full of joy, and at peace. And they have a strong relationship with God. They can mentor you well. They can help you through all of the raising your children, juggling a job and raising children. I had to do that. I became a single parent when my daughter was very young. And we need to be in community, Christian community with each other. God never created us to be solitary. So it is not weak to reach out for help. It is not weak to ask for advice. It's strong. It will make you stronger. It will teach you things you would have had to spend 30 years learning on your own, and mostly mistakes. And so learn from the mistakes of the older women. Older teach younger. That's a biblical principle.
Well, Gina, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you. It's always great to see you. And Julie, back to you.
To hear more from the women of She Leads Michigan, head to our website, expertconnections.tv, and click Heart and Soul Connections. From body painting to the symphony, exhibits at MSU's Broad Museum to beatboxing, visual arts to the opera, the Mid-Michigan arts community is thriving. We showcased some of this incredible work right here on WLAJ. Here's a look at the power of Mid-Michigan arts.
For our size, I think we have an amazingly sized art scene, for our population. New York has 9 million people, so they can have the size of the art scene that they have. Here in Mid-Michigan, we're building something very special here. And again, for the size of our population, the size of our art scene is tremendous.
Everywhere you go in downtown Lansing, we drive by murals now, we see sculptures. So tell us, what is Opportunity Arts? What do you do?
So Opportunity Arts does promotion and administration for individual artists and arts organizations. We also have a group of Opportunity Arts affiliates where are different artists from different mediums, visual and performing arts, that are some of the best at what they do, not just in Michigan, but probably throughout the country.
Mike, why do you think that a community needs a vibrant arts and culture scene?
Well, I think the arts and culture scene defines what a community is, right? So like when you think of grunge music, you think of Seattle. When you think of New York, you think of Broadway, which is performing arts. So you think of the Statue of Liberty, which is a sculpture, which is visual arts. So really arts and culture defines what the community and how it's identified.
If you could look into the future, looking ahead post-pandemic, how do you see the arts and culture scene continuing to develop here in Mid-Michigan?
Well, we've had a history of great arts and culture in Michigan, obviously Motown down in Detroit. But in the 19th century, Michigan was known for lumber and agriculture and mining. In the 20th century, Michigan was known for the automobile. And I think when future generations look back on the 21st century, it's going to be very obvious that Michigan truly is the state of the arts.
Hear more from Mike and learn about Opportunity Arts on our website. Just head to expertconnections.tv. Click the link for Community Connections. Thank you for joining us for Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. We'll see you back here next Monday. Until then, you can find us online at expertconnections.tv and on YouTube. Make sure to hit subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Expert Connections is executive produced by M Connections Marketing Agency in collaboration with Foster Swift Law Firm. Strategic Solutions for Growth. Super Web Pros, Symposium Labs, Uno Deuce Multimedia, and She Leads Michigan. A special thank you to our Style Connections partners, Polka Dots Boutique, The Standard Spa, and Beauty by Wilder. Visit our Style Spotlight online at expertconnections.tv.